Say some things that might be usable for the intro. Let's do that.
Say the podcast name. Say our names. And then share what we think it is.
Welcome to It's Happening for You.
For you. Is this even the song we want to start our podcast with?
This is It's Happening for You, the podcast with Robin Meharry and
Stephanie Lentini.
we love you. Love you. And then the music. The music begins.
Cut.
Cut. And begin. Hi, Steph.
Robin, hi. Good to see you again.
Good to see you. It's been a minute.
Yeah, we've been talking a lot, but we haven't seen each other. So
I know. So it's nice.
I almost forgot what you looked like.
No. Well, I feel like I'm active in your imagination, so you have an image of me somewhere in there.
Yeah, that's right. Oh my gosh.
Steph,
Okay.
tell us where you are. Where are you right now?
Oh yeah, okay. Yeah, so today I'm coming live from the van that Thomas and I lived in for a while, but we don't really live in it anymore.
No.
I'm in Lander, Wyoming, and it's farmers market day. I just drove by it and I was like, oh, farmers
so
market.
fun. Love that. Love
Yeah.
farmers markets.
Yeah, and I think they just do it once a month or once every couple of weeks. So it's a big event today.
Wow. Very nice.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah.
And I'm back in LA. I have gone back to Europe and I'm back already. We didn't record while I was away, but we talked a lot, which is nice.
Yeah.
Didn't feel like we wanted to record.
You were busy.
It was busy. We were in movement. It was all good. So here we are now.
Yeah, but we did talk a lot. We talked a lot, and we've been talking a lot about the Frank and Paul series recently and how amazing those have been. Like, just really cool.
Yeah, it's been amazing. I am now forgetting there's something we talked yesterday for a bit, and there was something yesterday. I was like, definitely bring that up tomorrow. I personally can't remember it, but can you? I have no idea.
I think there were a few things. One of the things that I wanted to talk about is like sort of what shifted. One of the things I didn't talk about yesterday that I wanted to tell you about was what shifted since my last private session with Paul. And I asked questions about Thomas. And I do think that we recorded like right after that or right before that. And I think I mentioned it in our last episode. I can't remember exactly. But some really cool shifts and cool shifts have been occurring in that realm of like my beloved, as Frank and Paul would call it. So that's been really cool, and we didn't actually talk in the hour and a half that we spoke yesterday. We didn't have time for that.
Yeah, we didn't. We didn't even touch on it.
No,
okay,
it was like,
and we had so much to talk about. Wait, so just give a like really quick synopsis of like your session and what maybe kind of like what you're, if you feel okay sharing.
Yeah.
Kind of what was like the premise of that, what was the what opinion suggestions did they give you, and what has shifted?
Okay, so it was my last session that I had with them, and I was asking about like basically feeling frustrated with Thomas and wanting more attention from him, and they told me to a few things. They had a few recommendations for me. I feel like this one I didn't really note. But they said, like, you can have what you want. Basically,
Yeah.
they're like, first of all, you need to decide that you can have what you want, because
Mm.
they were sort of pointing out that I was coming to the session feeling like depressed and defeated. And
Yes.
it's really hard to change how you're feeling in a session with them.
Yes.
For me, I've noticed, like, it's like what I bring there, it's but they
Amplified.
were like, yeah, they were like, you need to get angry instead of depressed. And
That's
that was
right.
something that was really cool to acknowledge. And I've heard them say this before, but like that a lot of times we feel uncomfortable with anger, and so we go to depression, which is kind of like it's turned inwards, like it's anger turned inwards. And
Mm.
you know, it's just whatever. I was gonna say it's a lower vibration, but whatever. They're like, you need to get angry, and if you feel frustrated, like allow yourself to feel frustrated anytime going forward. And then they said, spend more time with your beloved, like in your imagination, not when you're with him. And also stop waiting for him.
Mhm. Yeah.
Stop sitting in the room waiting for him to give you attention, and just go off and please yourself, essentially.
Like, do you feel like their kind of message was again bringing it back to the fact that you are your beloved,
Well, for sure. Yeah.
right? Yeah.
That,
Okay.
like, I don't know if they explicitly said that,
I
but
don't think so either.
I immediately was like, stop waiting for him. And then I was like, oh, I'm gonna start taking myself on dates and like treating myself like I'm my own beloved. And I would like literally look at my hands like they suggest and be like, these are the hands of my beloved. And what do we want to do right now? And so from that day, initially, I wanted to, like, that day in particular, I wanted to go out to lunch. And I was asking Thomas, like, what do you want to eat? And do you want to go get it? And blah, 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 blah. And he was doing the thing that was like so bothering me, which was just like on his phone and not replying to me. And I was like, so I went and I sat outside, and they told me to go in another room, and like, but we live in a tiny house and there's only one room. So I would like go outside and just like, one of those, that day in particular, I was just like stirring, and I let myself feel the frustration and just be mad. And he was aware I was mad, but I wasn't like giving it to him.
Yeah.
He was just like, he could tell immediately that I was like pissed off.
Yeah.
And then I was like, okay, after I let myself feel frustrated, I was like, I'm just gonna go have lunch how I want to have lunch, and just pretend like it's me and someone else I'm going with. And I wanted to walk to the place I wanted to eat. And I was also like I wanted to get barbecue nachos, and I was asking him if we should try a new meat, even though I knew I wanted just pork barbecue nachos.
Oh,
And
funny.
so like I was like, and I asked him if he wanted to walk there, and he was like, no, just call it in. And I didn't want to do that. So I was like, okay, I'm just going to do what I want to do. I want to walk there. Then when I got there, I was like, I want pork nachos, not brisket nachos. So I'm going to order that. I'm going to sit here and I'm going to enjoy them. And it was sort of the start of what felt like just a new chapter of not needing him to be anything for me.
Yeah.
Anything at all. I was just sort of like, you're a roommate. Like, if I had a roommate, I wouldn't really have any expectations for how they interact with me. If anything,
No.
I'd probably avoid them.
Yeah, exactly. You wouldn't be like, we need to go get food together right now. And what do you want?
No, exactly. Should I get what they want because they're in the mood for brisket? Totally.
Oh, that's so funny. Wait, can I ask a question? So when you were like, okay, I'm gonna go just take myself and do this, did you voice that to Thomas or did you just leave?
Yeah, I did. Yeah. And he
And
was like, he was just like, oh, okay. He could tell I was upset.
yeah. Okay,
Oh,
he just
and
let it be.
one of the things that they said in that session was like, when you just go and do what you want, he'll either follow you or he'll go his own way.
Yeah.
And that day he didn't follow me, but it's been like 3 weeks since then, and
Wow.
I feel like we're like closer than ever or whatever. It's not really like even compared to the past because it is, I do compare it to the past, but sort of feels like we're in honeymoon phase again.
Really?
Oh yeah.
Oh wow. Oh my gosh, that's a big change.
For sure. Yeah. But like I continued to, and I have not stopped. So I don't want it to be like, oh, this was a process and now I've
Yes.
stopped. And now,
Yes.
because like, it's just a reminder that he's not my beloved. Like he is, but he's not. Like I'm
Yeah.
my number one beloved
Yeah.
first and foremost. And I don't need someone else, or it's disempowering to put it outside of me that I need someone to do something to feel better. It actually reminds me of
Yes.
what they were talking about in the series about body and revising your
Yes.
body, and how we want our body to do a certain thing or look a certain way to make us feel better.
Yes.
And it's like the same thing with people, but we do that way more often, at least that we're
Yes.
aware of with people, where we're like,
Yes.
we want you to behave a certain way so I can feel better.
Yes. Yep.
You know?
Yep. That's exactly it. Yep.
You know? So yeah, like that was sort of the beginning of just big shifts within me, of reminders that I've obviously, these are ideas I've been exposed to before, especially with Abraham, like don't, like, you're looking for love in all the wrong places and that sort of thing.
Yep.
And but this is the first time where I also actively spent I've continued to spend time in my imagination with myself and various forms of my beloved, and often, you know, and we so a quick, like, you know, continuation of the synopsis is that we were in the tiny house for a little bit longer, and then we've since like gone on the road and we're in Wyoming in the van, and Thomas is having these series of backcountry trips where he comes into town and organizes all of his gear and gets everything together that he needs, and then he goes hikes out like into the backcountry, and for about 5 days at a time, and then comes back and does resupply, and then we're going on the third round of that. And at the beginning, the very first, well, the first two he did, but the first one he did, I decided I wanted to go on a road trip. And I was like, I'm going to go on a road. I'm going to take myself on my dream vacation. And like, I'm going to go wherever I want and just go see the things I want to see and enjoy the sights. And BB went with me too. And it was really cool during that time. I ended up driving a lot. I pretty much drove 5 days straight for about 5 hours each day, with the exception of one day in the middle where I went for a hike. But I listened to a lot of the material, and I spent lots of time dreaming of all the things that I'm desiring, like, and just imagining having it. And one of the things that I was doing when I was coming back to Leander was I said to myself, like, if I thought about some characteristics of Thomas that didn't feel desirable or whatever, I would just say to myself, I'm willing to be wrong about that. Like, I don't know who he is.
Yeah.
And it doesn't really feel good to pin him down to that. So, like, I'm actually willing to be wrong about that and for him to be like somebody completely different when I see him.
Oh, I love that. Yeah.
And that was really cool and just impactful, like in the moment that I was saying it, because I could immediately feel like just the possibilities of him being that idealized beloved that I've been spending time in my imagination with, like him being that now. You know, I was kind of like, oh yeah, like he is that. He is that. The only reason he's been how he's been is because I've been imagining him being that way, and I continue to manifest him in that particular way.
Yes. Interesting. Okay, so like the question that comes to mind with this, you know, is how, you know, others outside of us have their own free will as well. So like what is like I'm curious with like your now with this experience and your understanding of like then how much like control or not control, because it's more like I'm thinking of it in terms of like, okay, you're with somebody and it's not aligned, it's not feeling aligned, and then you know you go into your imagination of like what you're wanting and everything, like you were saying, and you release them from these kind of preset, you know, opinions you have of them. Like I guess it's like the questions coming up is like, how do you know then when like you're just not a right fit and you move on from that? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. Okay, well, there's two things I want to say about that.
Okay,
one
cool.
is that even if you're experiencing unwanted things with someone, you are actually in alignment with it. So I think it's just a nuance of your language.
Yeah.
Of saying you're not aligned.
Yeah.
And I just want to say, like, whatever we're getting,
We're
we
aligned
are
with.
in
Yes,
alignment
that's
with.
true. Yes.
And we are creating whatever expression I get of any person that appears to be different from me. What I'm getting from them, I'm in alignment with the having of that.
Yes.
And you're not going to experience Thomas the same way that I do.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, even if we were both dating him, you wouldn't experience him the same way that I do.
Totally.
So we're always getting what we're in alignment with. That's one. But, you know, what I was aligned with wasn't what I was wanting. And so what I sort of decided to do was focus more on what I'm wanting.
Yes.
Focus less on what I'm not wanting.
Yes.
Right? Because as I focus on what I'm not wanting, I get more of that.
Yes.
It's the same as if I focus on what I'm wanting, I get more of that. If you stare at the stars, you see more stars.
Yes.
Like, I love that's an example that they give. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It just populates more. So that was sort of the shift that I've been, you know, kind of moving around in, is like that. But I don't know. And this is the age-old question. Like, people ask Abraham this in the hot seat all the time. You know, like, I just don't feel like we're a match anymore. And when do I know that it's time to leave? And this is what I got from the session with Frank and Paul, was like, you just go do your thing. And that was sort of what I was getting from, they'll follow you
or they go in their own direction.
And that's what I got from like an answer I wasn't really asking, but probably was asking underneath the surface. It was like, go do your thing as your beloved, please and delight yourself, and they'll either follow you or they won't.
Yes.
So that's sort of
Okay. That's it. That's it. Yeah. Yeah.
where I've come to with that question.
Well, because like that's perfect because it's when you're focusing on what you're wanting versus what you're not wanting. When you're focused on what you're wanting, you're getting more of what you're wanting. So if that person then is matching that,
Yeah.
then like you're saying, you guys will go in the same direction.
Yeah.
They will follow. It will meet that because that's what you're in alignment with.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But if that's not, it'll float,
Yeah.
evolve away from you. It'll
Yeah.
go in its own direction. It'll be clear.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. Okay. I love that.
Yeah.
It's actually really simple. As we say with all this stuff, right? Like it's like our heads get involved and we like want to overcomplicate it, but it's really that simple.
Yeah.
Yeah. You just, yeah. Anyways, I get it. I get it.
Yeah. So I do like in terms of, just to talk about what's manifesting now, it really does feel very fucking different.
Oh yeah.
Well, first of all, I just like one of the things that they said in that session was like, stop caring if he's on his phone. And so, anytime I notice that care comes up, it's just like, fuck it. He doesn't owe me shit. He can be on his phone, like that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
And if I feel myself like trying to like pull his attention away from it, it accentuate. And so I'm just like, I'm just gonna like get the fuck out of here.
Yes.
Now we're in the van, so you're tiny house the van, but
Yeah.
he's been away a lot. So I've just been enjoying spending time. It's funny because a lot of the times in my imagination, I'm actually not spending time with somebody. I'm just like doing things by myself. And I've been enjoying that too.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's really cool. I love that.
Oh yeah, but I was saying like, oh, how is he showing up differently? It's like,
oh yeah.
Like it sort of feels like we're in the honeymoon phase, and I can tell how he just responds to me. Like I can tell how there's a part of me that wants to be like, I don't know, there's something that feels weird about me saying that, but like when I was feeling weird and distant and mad at him, he was weird and distant and mad at me. At least whatever. That's just that's what I was getting. Right. Yes. And now I'm just feeling good and loving towards myself and all of this life and experience and delighting in it. And I just feel like that's immediately like coming back to me. Yeah. So it's pretty cool and interesting. And
I love it. I love it. That's so fun. I love the part of like, we have our opinions of how people are outside of us, and we like go, oh, they're this way or whatnot. And it's like, I love that aspect of like, I don't know, because the whole point also is that we're constantly changing. Like, the Communion of Light talks about this, that we're not, even when you like close your eyes and you go into your imagination and imagine what you are wanting or whatever, when you open your eyes, everything's changed. Your body has changed just in that moment, so it's like to then think, you go on your road trip and come back 5 days later, that the Thomas that you remember from before is going to be exactly the Thomas that you come back to.
He's only that,
like,
oh my gosh,
you know what I mean?
It's that's sort of like a really great segue into this most recent series about revising your body.
So good. that one just so good.
It was, and it just ended yesterday, and it was about revising your body, and I know that Neville Goddard uses that term revising, but I'm not a student of his work, so I wasn't
Neither.
like familiar with it. But the Communion of Light kind of says that they talk about it a little bit differently, but it's essentially there's like this sort of big idea that you and I discussed yesterday, that there's no actual linear time, like the way that we think of it. We use it as a tool to like sort of organize data. We use it, it's here for our benefit, on our behalf, to our benefit, that whole thing. But actually there's no time, just our perception of it and our use of it. And the only moment is this now moment. But we constantly check in on the past to inform, to provide the backstory as to why it is we're having what we're having now. And so like you can take that idea and revise what you keep bringing forward as a memory, to change what your experience is with the present moment. But also they were like saying like, it's not, don't use revision to fix anything. Like you have to be okay with like what you're having here and now, and just be like, this is what I'm having, and not do this to try to fix something. But like one of the things that I recalled as a memory, specifically around this idea of like Thomas with the phone, was one of the very first times that I have a memory of him being on his phone and feeling ignored by him. We like I flew from California to Colorado to visit, and we were doing this like day trip around basically like Rocky Mountain National Park, like around the mountains of Colorado, and stopping along the way and having lunch and going to the lake and checking things out and blah blah blah. And it's so fucking cool actually to tell you this right now, because I can feel how that memory is really blended with what I revised it to. Because I was just like, oh, you know what, like this memory, he was just like blatantly ignoring me, and I was like just like so mad about it. I'm not even going to tell you the things I remember about it, because what I decided happened that day instead was that we rented a canoe, and we like rode the canoe on the lake and had a picnic, and we went and listened to music, and we like danced together, and then like we had dinner, and we got a hotel room that night. And it's just like, it was astounding to me that I was continuing to like refer to this thing that happened, that like I don't even know how it happened. I'm just continuing to bring it forward, thinking it happened a certain way that feels like shit. So like, let's revise that and just say like, I'm willing to be wrong about that, and be like, I think it happened some other way. Like, what way would feel better of that day?
Yes. It's, I remember the council, Sarah Landon and the council bringing this through. I don't know. I think this was like probably a little over a year ago, where they were talking about like basically revising any past story you want. So like in your, a lot of us have like memories in our childhood of like our parents being a certain way or our siblings being a certain way. And, they talked about like, you can go back and create whatever past you want that feels better to you now, because there is no past, right? There's only the present moment and what you are feeling in this present moment of having. And so I did that. Like, I don't know how long ago now, maybe it's 2 years ago. And I did that. I literally, in doing so, like imagine like, what I would picture as like the perfect family, and everybody getting along, us eating dinner together every night and all those things. And I swear, like from that moment forward, like it's like my past is different than I was saying before, right?
Yeah, it's revised.
It's revised, and it just, my mom. my mic. I have it balancing on books. But it's like it just feels better.
Yeah.
Like that's the bottom line. It's like if you are feeling something in the now moment that doesn't feel good, we know that then it's not truth, right? And then B, you have the ability to choose right now to change that
Yeah.
and to feel something better.
Yeah.
So if
Yeah.
you're telling an old story about something that happened to you, and in this moment you're feeling crappy about remembering that story and reliving that story,
Mm-hmm.
what's a better feeling thought that you can think
Yeah.
right now? Or go back and say, that never happened. Like they give so many examples that you can go back and be like, that never happened. If
Yeah.
that feels good to do so. If that doesn't feel good to do so, then go back and imagine how you would have wanted it to be and feel
Mm-hmm.
into that. I think that's just so important because like I know like so many people, we just hold these stories, like our stories of our past, and then we really identify with them and we keep them alive in this moment when it could be not what we're wanting. It's like an unwanted thing
Mm-hmm.
that then we're like reliving and telling, and then you get more of what you focus on and the meaning you give it is like what is creating your reality then.
Yeah.
But people are so attached to their old stories. They're identified with them. It can be, and I feel like I was like that for a while. And now going back and revising these stories feels better to me now.
Absolutely. I'm just blown away by the whole idea that like there's no past.
Yes.
And I just was like seeing all these like spider webs and strands of like the connection between like a little thing I am actually experiencing in this now moment and how I'm tracing it back through the years of all these memories and events that makes that true now. Like I was
Yes.
telling you about this last night with
Yes.
like my sprained ankle.
Yes.
And like I was going for a walk and then I feel pain in my foot and I'm just like, oh, immediately like I bring forth a day 5 years ago from snowboarding and I'm like, that's why I'm feeling this way. And it's just like, dude,
Yeah,
that's fucking crazy.
I know.
That's
It's
fucking
insane.
crazy. Like,
Yeah. It's
that
actually insanity to do that. You know what I mean? Like it's actually insanity. Like why would you want to do that?
I didn't know I could
You
choose
know what I
anything
mean?
else.
No, it's all we've known.
Yeah.
It's how we have learned to be in this, physical reality, which is perfect. And that was part of the process, right?
Yeah.
But now we're remembering and
Yeah.
allowing all
Yeah.
that we have always been. And it's really fun.
And
I'm finding
allowing it to be new now. Like allowing
Yes.
it to be new. Like really, truly,
Yeah.
like I'm not the same person I was like since when we started this call.
No, exactly.
Like I already died like 10 times.
Yeah. It does feel that way. But it's so true because like I broke my ankle, whatever, 12, however, I don't even know how many years ago, but it's like that same, I have scars on my ankle from the surgery and everything. So like that was one thing when that question, because one of the questions that came up in the series with the Revising the Body series was somebody talking about was it sprained ankle or like just ankle pain or something? I forget.
Repetitive strain injury on the wrist was
On the
one,
wrist.
but
Okay,
there was
yes.
a scar thing too, which was discussed in
Yes.
depth.
Yes. And so
Yeah.
both of those brought forward, like I was like, oh, what scars do I have on my body? It's like, oh, this. And I was like, went back to that night where it happened. And I totally imagined it totally differently, like where I just danced the night away, like because it was New Year's Eve and whatnot. I was
Yeah.
with all my friends. So instead of like falling and going to the hospital, I just continued walking down the stairs and went and partied with my friends for the rest of the night. I was like, oh my gosh, that feels so good.
Yes.
That feels so good. And it's just, that is it. Like, try, like listening, that's your intuition guiding you,
Mm.
is those moments where you can be like, oh, this feels better than me remembering or thinking I'm remembering falling down, going to the hospital. Like
Mhm.
that, or dancing and partying with my friends. Oh, I think I like that. It's like, oh, I'm gonna imagine that and play in that. It's like so fun. And then
Yep.
even like before I left on this trip, I like, stepped down weird and like tweaked my foot a little bit. And so then I was having this pain in my arch like the last couple days that was like amplified. And I did it with that too. From our conversation last night, I was feeling it.
Yeah.
And I was like thinking about what you were saying about your sprained ankle and how, you're walking and you're feeling a little tinge of something. And you're like, no, that never happened or whatever. And I was like, yeah, I don't know what's happening. I don't know why this pain. I'm not going to give it a backstory, and I'm
Yeah.
going to let it be. I amplified it. I felt it fully.
Yeah.
And it's gone.
Yeah.
It's gone.
Yeah. Yeah. I've been loving that. Like, I also revised my snowboarding day, and I was like, oh, I just fell, and I was like, oh, that was kind of weird. And then because I did still fall, and then I got up and I just kept snowboarding the rest of the day,
Yeah.
and we were finding powder pockets everywhere, and it was so much fun. And but then I still find myself occasionally trying to reference that, like still like often. And that's what's been blowing my mind, is how often I reference that to
Yes.
any sort of anything related to my legs in
Yep.
particular. And so I've been like, oh, I've been saying that if I notice like a pain or a thing, I'm like, I don't know what that means. I'm like, oh, that's just like, oh, it's here now and it's gone tomorrow sort of thing. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like,
Exactly.
oh no, do I need to worry about this? It's like, no, it's just, oh, there's a thing that showed up and it's on its way out too. Like, it's not a big deal, like that just feels so good. I love also just being like, I don't know what that means. Like, it doesn't mean anything,
Exactly. We don't need to have it mean something and give it this backstory to like, I feel like that even like, trying to give this backstory to it then like solidifies it a bit
Yeah.
more. You know what I mean? And it's like, you don't want that to solidify.
Exactly.
want it
No,
to
we want it to
move.
keep moving. Yeah.
Well, that was even, I think I shared with you when I was in England, I picked up a lid off of a pot that I had put into the oven. So
Mhm.
totally forgot that it was hot and picked up with my hand, and I dropped it quickly and then put my hand in the sink and just was like, I'm fine. Everything's fine. Nothing happened. It was just like, I'm going to let it go. And then, the burning sensation happened, but I let it be like fully present. And then I was like, oh, putting something cold on it feels really good, but just was not making it wrong. Wasn't trying to give it this like, oh, now I'm going to have, blisters on my hands and I'm traveling. How am I going to carry my suitcases? Like, I felt that happening, like that tinge of like, oh, I'm fucked now. And I was like, no, I no, why do I want to like paint that story? And I'm like, that doesn't feel good. And I dropped it and then like was like imagining I woke up in the morning and it was completely gone and there was nothing. And then the next morning, that's
completely gone.
exactly what happened.
Yeah.
Completely gone. The only thing was like a little, not even a blister. It was like a piece of dry skin. You know what I mean? Like, that's all that happened. I was a piece of dry skin on one finger. Nothing else there.
Yeah.
So it's like we are master manifestors.
Yeah.
Masters. It's just amazing.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Oh, I want to share too, because I know I told you, but like this still is like blowing my mind a bit. It is and it isn't, because it's like, well, yeah, of course. But like in the series, I think it was a series of like cash flows where your imagination goes.
Mm-hmm.
And they were talking about having cash in your wallet, imagining cash in your wallet.
Oh
And
yeah.
they were talking about like, you have 20 pounds or $20, whatever currency in your wallet. And I don't know if they necessarily said this, but they were like, imagine that, there's more or whatever. I forget how they kind of phrased it. But in my imagination, I knew I don't carry cash in my wallet very often, but I knew I had a 5-pound note in my wallet from when I was in England in February.
Mm-hmm.
And, I tucked it in with my credit cards, and I was like, oh, well, I'll save that for when I go back to England next time. But I knew it was in there because I've been moving credit cards and different things around in my wallet. And it's been like something very like active. Like I know it's there. So I was like, okay, I'm going to imagine having 2 $5 or 5-pound notes. And, but like really didn't think anything of it, just played with like opening my wallet, seeing it and being like, oh, great, great, great. Never checked, So I go to England and I'm out to dinner with my friend, and we're sitting at dinner, and there's like no one around us. And she goes, oh my gosh, is that your 5 pounds on the ground? And I looked down and I was like, no, I don't think so. Cause I hadn't even taken out my wallet or anything at this point. And then she was like, well, it's yours now. And I looked around, I'm like, oh my gosh, maybe this is how it like manifests. Okay, whatever. So I just stuck it in my wallet and was like, fine, that's great. Perfect. There's my like second 5-pound note. Then the next day, I'm walking to the store and I pulled out my wallet to look. I was like, oh, I'll pay with the cash I have. And I pull out the 5-pound note that I put in the night before. And then I go to pull out the other 5 pounds where I had it. And there was 2 5-pound notes in there. So now I had 3 5-pound notes. And that means there was already 2 in my wallet previous to me picking up the third one the night before. And it was just, I like literally still to this, like I have no backstory because there's nothing logical. Like I can't logically put together like how I would have gotten that second 5-pound. And I'm like, that's perfect. That's perfect. That's this, this is how this works.
That's like, yeah, like, so this is sort of like touching on the topic of consistency and permanency and how we use consistency and permanency.
Right, yes.
But that the reason that the scar keeps manifesting on our leg is because of our belief in consistency and permanency and, this time construct.
Yes.
But we can also play with like inconsistency,
yes.
or like discontinuity also is one of the things that they say. And you can, when something appears to manifest out of thin air, one way to enjoy the pleasure of that is to have a backstory for it. But also it can be really fun and delightful to not have a backstory like you're talking about, right? Like, like, oh no, it's kind of fun to just be like, there's no backstory except for that I manifested it out of thin air. Like I'm actually not that I manifested. I'm manifesting it now in this moment as it's here. Like not like not like I did it a while ago and now it's it's like right now I'm manifesting a third 5 or a second and then third 5, which is so cool. And I have to tell you, after we talked yesterday, I was like organizing stuff for the trip, and I've been thinking about how many tortillas we have. We have so many tortillas. Like I bought 2 packs of tortillas for the backcountry trip, and then Thomas told me there's like 20 tortillas already back there in a cache, like a bear hang from one of their earlier trips. I was like, dang, we just have so many tortillas. And then I was organizing stuff last night and I found a whole pack of tortillas unopened. And I immediately almost filled in a backstory. Like I must have bought tortillas because I have no explanation for where this fucking pack of tortillas came from. And I could feel like how quickly the backstory was filling in, and I was like, no, I'm just gonna be like, tortillas are so easy for me to manifest because
Yes.
like I don't care about them and I know I
That's
can
it.
have them.
Yes.
Like,
That's
I really
exactly it.
literally, I know, like, when I want tortillas, I can have tortillas, and so I was like, I'm gonna, like, bail on the backstory that I bought them at some point in time, and I'm just gonna let it be, like, I'm manifesting tortillas because it's so easy and, like, duh. Like,
Exactly.
I'm so lied about tortillas.
Well, and like I feel like if you kept saying like we have so many tortillas, so then you have plenty of tortillas, so there's more showed up. Like
So many tortillas. More tortillas than we know what to do with.
but I feel like that's exactly like the like same thing as, you know, the Communion of Light says, you know, just keep telling yourself, I have plenty of cash. I have plenty of money. Like I have plenty of cash. And so it's like the same thing where you've been telling yourself, we have plenty of tortillas. And so then what happened? Just even more tortillas showed up.
They're just populating. Just soon enough, I'm gonna find another thing of oatmeal because we have plenty of oatmeal too, and bagels. And
oh, that's so funny. I love that.
I'm just like, what? Where did this? It was up in like this box in the top, and I was
Yeah.
that's amazing. I'm just
Amazing.
manifesting tortillas out of thin air.
I love it. I love it. Well, and that is the thing. Like, I think, you know, and as we're practicing with like these easier things, like I think I had told you like 5 pounds, like that's not like a big number, you know, it's like
Right.
an easy thing. So like I wasn't attached to if it happened or didn't happen,
Right.
you know, so then it just allowed it to happen. Like it just
Yep.
was, there was no attachment to it. So like you're saying you have no attachments to tortillas.
Well, because I know like it's also sort of like the hot water thing or the electricity thing. Like
Yes.
I know if they run out, I'll get more.
You can get more. There's no problem.
That's the whole willing to not have it sort of principle, if you will. You know, it's like
yes.
I'm willing to not have tortillas because I know I can always I will have more for sure.
Yes.
Tortillas are just a part of my life.
Yes.
Like oxygen and water and electricity and cash.
Yes. I love that you're putting tortillas in the same boat as water, electricity.
Tortillas are now, or maybe have always been in the stream of default manifesting.
Default. There you go. There you go. That's so funny.
Yeah.
I love it. Ah, it's so good. Wait, there was something you just said that I wanted to highlight too. Oh, well, it'll come back to me.
Yeah, we were talking about lightness of the desire, being willing to not have it, but also
be willing not to have it.
Yeah.
That's what you and I were touching on yesterday, that I feel I'm like been really feeling into that more and more, or like allowing myself to really like
with your beloved, right? Yeah, that's when you were talking about it. And that's similar to my story with Thomas, like just willing not to have it. He's just a fucking roommate. Like, be alone forever, you know, that sort of thing.
Yeah, it's like, because there's just been such, I mean, for as long as I can remember, my story to myself was like, I want to be married, or I want to have, you know, kids, and you know, this desire. It's like that desire is perfect, beautiful, amazing. The desire is known through all of everywhere, through the universe, or
the universe of your thoughts.
yes.
Yes.
It's like then, but the thing that I haven't fully felt into, because it's like unwanted, would be like being willing to just be alone, to be exactly where I am right now forevermore. And it's like, actually, when I really like feel it, because like right in this moment, I'm really happy. It's not like, oh, you know, like I'm so unhappy right now. It's like, oh, if this is like my day forevermore, this is perfect.
Yeah,
it's amazing. So like I am willing to have this, and I know that I can play in my imagination still and have all the desires that I'm wanting and having them right now.
Yeah.
perfect. But that's what we were talking about yesterday. We were saying like the kind of not to give them steps because there is no steps or process, but like we were saying, like the first thing is to weren't we saying number one was like being willing to be exactly where you're at and not having
Exactly. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then number two, what we were saying.
It's either not having or having something that you feel like is unwanted and being okay with that. Because like in
Yes.
revising your body, I feel like not many people talked about this, but I do feel like it's everywhere, is like having fat that you don't want. Or one
Exactly.
person asked about like cellulite,
Yes.
having fat pockets that you don't want, extra
Yes.
fat pockets, but like first step in it being possible to be different is letting it be what it
willingness.
is now.
Yeah. The
Yeah.
willing to let it be. It's
Yeah.
not like you're then putting it into form and it's like, well, this is how it's going to be forevermore. It's like you're just willing
Yeah.
for it to not change.
Yeah.
Yeah. Continue.
No, you continue. You were telling the steps.
Oh yeah. Okay. So
but that's
but
an
yeah.
important first part, is like
first part.
just acknowledging what is and being okay with it. You know, what it looks like is in the terms of because that we get caught up in the physical manifestation, like what's manifesting physically. And we're like, we want it to look like this. You know what I mean? And so it's like, just be okay with what it looks like now.
Because then what we're doing is we're resisting what is here now. And that's not then allowing things to flow to you and to, come up and meet you where, anyways. So perfect. Second is to then imagine all that you want. Be in your imagination now. And
have it now.
You have it now. When you close your eyes and you're imagining it, you are having it now.
You're having it. Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's sort of like what I was like pointing to slightly when I was saying we get so caught up in the physical manifestation. It needs to be here in the physicality. But like, this is the coolest thing. Not the coolest. There's so many. I can't choose the coolest. But this is a fucking cool thing that really shifted for me from Abraham being my like teacher to being reminded by Frank and Paul about this stuff, is that when you're imagining it, you are having it. You are having it. And I was always sort of scared to imagine too much, be too specific, because I was afraid I was going to accentuate the gap of feeling like I'm not having it. Accentuate the feeling of not having it by thinking about what I'm wanting. But this is the coolest little shift. The coolest, tiniest, subtlest little shift is like, in your imagining it, you are having it. You are there. In your imagining walking down the street in Paris or sitting at a cafe in Paris, like you're actually in Paris. Like me just saying that.
Yes. I'm there.
So many people, you're there, and whoever's listening went there too. They went to imagination of a street or a cafe in their mind of Paris, and like, oh, it's so cool. You're having it now, and that is like all of our desires are already here vibrationally. So, really just spending time with them in the imagination does allow them to evolve even more into the physical manifestation or into another form that it feels better.
Yeah, I was going to say, and even better. Like,
yes,
that's the thing. It's like, then it's going to bring you that or something better.
Yeah.
And you want to allow something better to happen to you. You don't want it to just be that. You want it to be like that or anything better. And it is when because it's back to the premise that there's only the now. So if you're feeling it in the now, you're having it in the now. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's that simple.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's wonderful.
I have like a little story to illustrate this, which I've told pretty much everyone this week, and including you. But like I got turned on to this girl on TikTok. Her name is Victoria Paris, and she's like, she's an influencer. She's literally just like a full-time influencer. That's her job. And she even says that, like, it's my job to record videos and like blah 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 and post them. She's 24, she's from LA, and she's been spending the whole summer in Europe. And she flew to Paris one way, and then she went all over the place. And I'm pretty sure, like, I found her when she was about 3 weeks into her trip or something, maybe less. And it's one of the things that I'm constantly wanting, is to be in Europe.
I know. Yeah, you've been talking a lot about it.
I'm like, I'm destined to live in Europe. And I really, want to make it happen, but don't know how to make it happen, because it just does not feel like I'm not going to just pack up and head out. Like, and I kind of did that last summer, but it wasn't fully the experience I was wanting. Is Tiger up?
No, I'm watching her. She just rolled over. She's asleep.
Oh, okay. All right, just checking. I saw your eyes going down, and I remember you're on baby watch.
Yeah, I'm like, did she roll over, go back to sleep? Yeah, she looks like she's passed out again.
Okay, cool. Okay, so with this idea that, like, imagining is having, I've been going to Europe every single day, and Victoria is one of the ways in which I do that, because she's posting content each day. She posts every day to Instagram story, Instagram feed, and TikTok, and she makes like multiple videos a day. So it's so cool, because I know what she's doing from basically when she wakes up to when she goes to bed.
So fun.
It's really cool. And so sometimes, like, I just picture, waking up in the same house as her, and I can, like, I know I'm there because I can smell her cigarette, or I can hear the girls talking, or like we're trading clothes and we're talking about the day and blah, 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 blah. But also just yesterday, I like went for a little hike, and then I came back to the van, and I was like, what do I want to do now? And then I just thought, I feel like going to Europe. And I didn't go with Victoria yesterday. I went by myself, and I just like, I woke up in a little sleepy village somewhere in Italy, and I pulled a shot of espresso and put a tiny bit of milk in it, and then I had a cigarette, and which is so fun because I get to have cigarettes in my imagination.
Yeah, I love it.
And then I had like I like fresh squeezed orange juice and poured it into the glass, and walked on like the tile floor and opened the little terrace, and I'm looking outside. And then I decided to go just walk into the village and have another little espresso and say hi to some people and grab a little baguette, and like, in just talking about, like, I just went there. And then I fell asleep, and then I woke, and it was like just so fun to not need it to be in physical form to experience, to have the experience of it.
Yes. You shared this with me yesterday, but it's like, of course, today is hitting me differently than yesterday, because, I'm hearing
You're
it.
different.
Yeah, I'm different, and I'm hearing it differently then. But it's really helpful because, I just came back from England, and England is a place that I desire to live in. And it can be difficult. It feels difficult for me to leave it, because it feels like home to me. So I love what you're saying, because I was starting to create that gap, or that kind of like that angst of like, I want to be there. I need this. Yeah, I don't know how it's going to happen, and nothing like there's no clear path. There isn't something that feels like, well, duh, yeah, this is the way, and like that's the way I'm going to go then, and it's like effortless and easy and just like, floating up to meet me. It doesn't feel that way right now. and by me like then starting to go into like my head of like, okay, figuring out how to make it happen because this is something I want, just every day closing my eyes and being there.
Yeah.
Then every day I'm there, I'm living there.
And you're becoming a vibrational match to it in the way that it will absolutely rise up to meet you.
Yep.
It will unfold. It will rise up to meet you. It will just you be
Yes.
around you, and you won't
Yes.
really know. You'll have a
How?
story,
Yeah.
but you won't know the story ahead of time. I'm remembering somebody asking a question of like, I thought this thing, I was disappointed because I thought this thing was money manifesting into form. And they were like, you can't apply a backstory to something before it even happened. Backstory comes afterwards. So don't try to look for where the way this is coming into form.
Yes. Yes.
And
Yes.
I had
Wow.
like I had a really quick contrasting experience of trying to bring something into form that I had imagined I wanted, and I said I wanted, and I thought the way to get it is to do it, to go and get it.
Yep.
And this for me was going to Glacier National Park. Because I had said like 3 weeks ago, I was kept looking at this time period and I'm like, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? And so I like made a plan, and then it's not like I was like, you're going to stick to it, but I did.
Yeah.
And I never spent any time imagining going to Glacier National Park before I went to Glacier National Park. And I could just feel how dissatisfying the whole experience was in going somewhere to get something.
Yes.
Like to have an experience. Like
yes.
the whole way I was just kind of feeling like I was feeling like a drug addict trying to get my fix.
Get your hits.
I am not kidding you. I felt like I just couldn't feel good until I got the hit of the high of like getting to a particular peak and seeing a particular vista. And when I got there, it was fucking smoky and I couldn't see anything. I couldn't see beyond like 20 feet. And I was like, I did this wrong. And of course, I didn't do anything wrong. But the contrast of Victoria, Paris and being in Europe versus just making a plan and setting out to like go and do it and experience it without doing the vibrational work. I was like, oh my God, like I didn't like seed the ground of Glacier prior to taking the action of getting here. And so now I'm here and I just can't do shit that way anymore.
No. Oh my gosh. Okay. That's totally reminding me of my trip to Tuscany too. I spent so much time prior to going in my imagination.
You were buying all the clothes.
Yes. And like feeling really great in my body and just in myself and meeting new people and being in this like fabulous place. And I did a lot of prep for it because I really wanted to fully enjoy this experience without any of these sticky old backstories that I've had about myself, and so I played in my imagination of like what exactly I wanted to experience there. And as you know, I've shared with you my experience, like it was unbelievable. I don't know if I've ever felt so like in my full like light and power and just like beaming, and I felt so great every day, and everybody was like magnetized to me, and all they could talk about was like my energy. They're like, you're the life and the soul of this party, like, and it was like, and I just was like, I know, it wasn't like, oh, I'm no, that can't be. I was like, I know, I feel great. I felt so good, and it was like owning it, like it just was feeling so like I don't
Yes.
know if I've ever felt like that much consistently, like in that. But now with what you're saying, I'm like, yes, of course, because of the imagining that I did up until that trip.
Yes.
Then that was my experience.
Yes. Yeah.
So good.
Yeah.
And it's just everything up to this point is all perfect and amazing. And like you were saying, you just can't do that anymore. Like,
No.
they were talking about that today. I forget how that came up. Oh, like I guess like the contrast or the pain. Like we feel things more
Mm-hmm.
because we're alert to it. We're aware of it.
Mm-hmm.
We used to be able to like ignore pain or ignore
Mm-hmm.
discomfort, and now we can't. If
Yeah.
that comes up, it boils to the surface. Like you can't just like push it away anymore.
Oh yeah, when I got to Glacier, like that, it was so uncomfortable that I was just like, I was just like, what is my life? And then I was like, okay, stop trying to get something to feel better. Like, just fucking chill.
Yes.
Chill. And I made
Yeah.
this decision. I remember I was driving and I was making myself go to the west side of the glacier. And I was like, okay, I'm going to make the best of it. I'm going to go to REI. I'm going to go shopping. And I could feel how, like, I'm going to get to REI and I'm going to try to fill a void with shopping. And it's going to feel like shit. And then I'm going to be so disappointed and then even further away from Lander. And I was like at this crossroads where I was literally about to go right to Missoula or I could go left to Lander. And I was like, fuck it. And it went against everything that, like, is like, you drove all the way up here. I spent like $500 to get up there in gas, and it's like, you got to make the most of it. And I just like wanted to leave because I could feel like I wasn't a vibrational match to what the experience was that I was wanting. And I could just feel that I was a vibrational match to what I was getting, but it wasn't what I was wanting. So I was like, I just want to go back and like chill and just regroup and not like be taking all these actions and trying to go somewhere to feel better. And so I was like, fuck it. I don't need to go to REI. Like, just go back. Just go home, which is home is where the van is, but it's Lander right now. And it just felt like so much relief to just make the decision for like what felt better and not what was logical and not what I thought would feel better in the long run, but what felt better right then was to go left. And then as soon as I'm like maybe 2 minutes down this new road, I was like, oh, there's actually like a major city on my route. And I bet they have an REI. And I ended up going to REI anyway. I got this shirt there and I got new shoes. And it was like so much more satisfying, but it was just following like what felt better then and not what I thought would feel better later,
Yes.
It was just the funniest thing to experience. Like, yeah, it was very intensified it was like being in a session with Frank. I was just like, oh, I just want to get out of this.
Yes.
And
you can't ignore it anymore. There's no point. There was no way that you could have ignored that level of discomfort.
Yeah. And the discomfort is just like, I guess for me, what I got from the whole experience is just like, oh, I'm creating everything in my imagination first. Like, and if I don't, like, it's fine if I still try to, but like, this just feels like better for me right now is that I'm just chilling around and creating things in my imagination and literally allowing it to just sort of populate around me like tortillas do. And I'm not like, there's no action for me to take unless I feel like imagining something.
Yes. And I think like what you were just saying, like it was like what felt better you did, right? It's like you were
Yeah.
like, I'm gonna head home. And then
Yeah.
oh, there's our REI on the way, and that felt better. Like that's your intuition leading you. So that like goes back to those like steps that we were talking about of like, first being willing to have it be exactly as it is right now forevermore. Second, in the imagination of everything you want and allowing yourself to have it now. And then third is letting your intuition guide you, which is feeling into what feels better now.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then
I got to tell you, there was a moment where I was like, I might be in a smoky environment for the rest of my life. And I just kind of like let that consume me because I didn't want to run away from the smoke and then, just get more smoke. Because when it's wildfire season, well, smoke is smoke. It can follow you wherever it wants.
Yes.
And so I was like, I'm just going to let this be like, this is the rest of my life. It's just going to be smoky and I'll never have a clear vista again, but sort of just like I had to do that for myself to be willing to not have a clear view.
Yep. Yes. Yes. Oh my gosh. So good. I love it. I love like just sharing these like ways that we're, putting this all into practice and living it and like what we're experiencing because of it. It's like so helpful to me to hear your experience, and it like expands then everything I'm experiencing and doing right now. So I just love it. I love having these discussions, these conversations, these shares, and it changes. Like it just feels, I don't know, it's just so cool. I love it.
We got together with the clients of this next trip for dinner last night, and they're really like, we're just really close with them. We've known them since basically COVID, and it's really fun to be like, oh my gosh, like Dan, you're married now, and when we first met you during COVID, like you were jobless and you didn't know where you were living, and like you were just out of college, and like it's crazy, but
love that.
They're asking like, what have you been doing? And I was saying, hey, what are your plans for tomorrow? Because Rob and I want to record a podcast. And they're like, oh, that's cool. I was like, yeah, I've been doing a podcast since like April now. And they're like, that's so cool. What's your podcast about? Like, what is like, what's the topic for tomorrow or whatever,
Everybody always asks me that. Yes.
And I was like, oh, well, like the general thing that we talk about is like personal growth and like spiritual growth, like personal spiritual growth. That's what we talk about. We like to talk about the same thing, but like we don't like predetermine what we're going to talk about for the day. And we just like to talk to each other. And so the podcast isn't like a marketing strategy. It's not so we can sell anything or sell ourselves or anything. It's just because we like to talk about this stuff, and we like to share it with people. Yeah. So we made it into a podcast, but like it's just so fun. And they're like, oh, that sounds like really awesome. Like that sounds really nice. And I'm like, don't listen to this episode though, because I talked about Thomas a lot, And then, of course, they know me because of Thomas. So
yeah.
I'm like, make episode number 2 or number 1 your first one, not number 3.
Yeah.
I didn't say anything bad about Thomas except for the fact that he is just an extension of me.
That's it.
Yeah.
I love it. I know.
Yeah.
It's so
fun.
Good.
I actually don't talk about the podcast to really many people. And I know you talk about it to a lot more people than I think I do. And I'm always surprised when somebody reaches out to me and says like, I've been listening and I love it. Cause I'm just like, listening to what?
Yeah. Whenever you say that, you like give me feedback of what people have said. I'm like, people are listening.
I just remember this one session I had like with the private client, and she was like, it's great to see you, but I feel like I've been with you all day because I've been listening to you talk all day. And I was like, what are you talking about? Like, are you watching like old sessions of ours, or like, what are you talking about? And she was like, your podcast? And I was like, oh my God, there were like hours and hours of us talking on. Yes. I love it. Like, I feel like it's official that we're on Apple Podcasts. You know what I mean? Like on Apple Podcasts, there's 10 hours plus.
plus
of
which is
our
so funny.
opinions
Yes, and our
and thoughts
experiences.
out
Yes.
there. It's very
I know.
fun.
It is. I love it. No, and it's funny because I wasn't really talking about it a lot. And now, like on this trip specifically, like when people were asking me, like, oh, just
What are you
asking about
doing?
me.
Yeah,
Yeah,
what are
and
you up to?
whatnot. I'm like, one of the first things I talk about is the podcast because like I love it so much. And I was
Yeah.
like, that's fun to talk about. So I'm gonna talk about it. And it's like, why wouldn't I talk about it? You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like this is
Yeah.
one of the highlights of what I'm doing right now in my life.
Yeah.
And I would love sharing. And like you
Yes.
just never know. I'm like, if somebody is like inspired to do so, to listen, and it's something that then expands their awareness or they relate to or
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
I'm like,
I
that's
mean,
awesome.
the thing I consistently hear, this is what I told them last night, is like, we have a very like casual conversational just way of interacting, and anyone who typically sends me a message says, I feel like I was just hanging out chatting with you, and I love that. And I'm like, I love that too. Like you're in
Yes.
your bedroom and I'm in my house in my bedroom, and we're just having a chat, and like I love that feeling, like anyone listening feels like they're here with us, because it
Yes.
does feel that way, you know what I mean?
Yes, it does.
Like
Absolutely.
yeah,
Like
so
we're all just like sitting around the fire pit, if you will, chatting and sharing and hanging out.
but I also
You know?
love that. I also love talking to someone one-on-one, because especially like with you in this format, I give myself permission to talk as much as I want.
Yes. Yes.
And I
absolutely. Yes.
love that
Yes.
platform to speak. I love the ability to express myself through my words. Like I've always tried to do that through written, but
Yes.
it's like my thoughts come way faster than I can write. And I edit a lot more when I'm writing, and I like a conversation because it flows so easily to
Yes.
me. And I even noticed that like in a group versus like one-on-one sessions, like I keep saying this to my clients, like all my clients are, not all of them, but many of them are in various groups and group programs. And I'm like, I know that the energy of that, it's so delicious. The community of that, it's
Yep.
so yummy. And you feel your resonance with various people out of these 30 or 20 people, and it's very, very fun. But I love also that like you're giving yourself the opportunity to meet, like, with me one-on-one, where you
Yep.
get to just talk about yourself for a full fucking hour. Because in
Yes.
a group setting, we're still monitoring ourselves. And when someone doesn't, the whole group gets upset. If
Yes.
someone doesn't monitor how long they talk, like
Yes.
there's a few people in the various groups that over the years who don't, and they'll go on for like 15 minutes, and you're like,
Yes.
motherfucker, shut up.
Yes.
And like, I'm sorry,
Yes.
but like, and we have discussions about like, oh, like, do they just not know? It's just,
Yes.
it's
Yes.
so nice. I'm not going to focus on that. I'm going to focus on how nice it is when it's
Yeah.
just two people and you can just talk to your heart's delight. And
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah. Such a good point. I never even like thought about that in comparison, but like it's so true, because they're like you could in one-on-one you talk as much or as little as you want.
Yeah.
There's no like these like constraints around it or these like
Trying to be
ideas.
polite and
Yes.
but
And like don't
also like there is just something when someone does talk, for like everyone feels it too. Like
yes.
there's
my
this
gosh,
group
yes.
thing, so
Yes.
it's just very interesting. But it's one of the things that I love and value so much is the opportunity to speak one-on-one with someone.
Yes.
It's so
Love
delicious.
that. It is
It's
so
delicious. And it's
delicious.
really brought a bunch of like fun, yummy energy back into my private coaching practice, because I'm just like,
Mhm.
oh yeah, like give yourself the gift of just being able to talk about yourself for an hour.
Yes. Absolutely. Without like
To
any
someone's
like
to
you're
someone
like
who's gonna hold space too. You know what I mean? And like
yes.
we're
Really
like with
listen.
the intention of that upward sort of movement or whatever, like to focus on the desires and have more of
Yes.
what you're wanting and all of that sort of thing, not
It
just
is like priceless to have that.
it is.
It really is.
So
It's like
good.
whatever, like, whatever, if I have those thoughts still of like, oh, how much you charge for this or whatever, those ideas of like, oh, I shouldn't be charging that much for this. It's like, that is priceless.
Yeah.
It is priceless to have that. Because
Yeah.
when do you have that focused time
Yeah.
for yourself in a day with another person? Like
it's just
that's
all for you.
It's all for you.
But also you get to
All
like
for you. Oh, it's luxury. It
talking.
feels so good.
Yeah, it's not just in your head all,
No.
because we spend a lot of time in our head.
Yes,
all about ourselves. But
exactly.
they're really that perspective back where someone is hearing you and giving you, perspective back and
Yes.
sort of other angles like that. In
Yes.
particular is just so delicious.
And where you don't feel guilty for like talking for an hour about yourself.
Yeah.
Because you know that there's this energetic exchange happening too, where you're paying for this service, where then it's like, then you feel you feel free to do so.
Or you make a
feeling bad.
podcast where you have an energetic exchange.
Exactly. So good.
Yeah.
I love it.
Really good. Okay. Well, yeah, I feel like we get to a point where it's like, now I don't want to talk for too long.
Yes,
I don't know.
yes,
Maybe
I
someone
know.
likes listening for an hour and a half, but
No,
I think this
feels
is
perfect.
good length, good time to stop.
I did pull a card.
I was wondering. What is it?
Let's edition. Okay, so I got a new Oracle deck when I was in Glastonbury.
Ooh.
And it's a deck I've wanted for.
I've had that one.
This one?
Yes.
Yes, the Wisdom of the Oracle, Colette Baron Reed. So
Yes.
I've always wanted one of her. I've a long time ago. She had meditations I listened to and I loved them, and I was like, I want a card deck, and I just never got it. Then I was in a little magical store in Glastonbury, and they had it, and I was like, great! I have the energy of Glastonbury in my cards. So I picked a card today. This is like brand new card deck. So I don't know what any of this means, but it says come to the edge.
Awesome.
I'm going to read just like the high level
the leading edge.
Come to the leading edge. I like that. Okay, 36. Okay. Essential meanings: courage, taking a leap of faith, overcoming fear, and accepting risk. The Oracle's message: facing the unknown is the only choice you really have right now if you want to progress. It's okay to be afraid. Now is the time to take a risk that is not calculated, to feel the exhilaration as you ready yourself for a leap of faith. Spirit is present, so let go of fear. You are called to express your true self. Listen to your heart and soul, not your head. Come to the edge and discover that you can fly. You must step into the unfamiliar so that you may find your miracles.
Love it.
Solid message. I love it. What do you have any ideas or any thoughts that come up when I was reading that?
Well, you know what yes, there's many things. One is being willing to not have something, and also being all in with I'm a master manifester and this is how I do things now.
Yes.
That almost feels, it doesn't really feel like a leap of faith to me, but it does feel like a commitment in a way. It's just oh yeah, that's just how I do things now. I do things this way, and I'm just not doing things that way anymore. And if it feels worse, if that is an opinion that's kind of, just feels like crap, it's not something I need to give my time and attention to. It's all in with this,
Yes.
That's, I feel like that message of coming to the edge and leaping and so on is just being this actually might sound really out of context, but like I'm dead already, so fuck it. That's something I've been saying to a few people is like we're in the bonus period.
Yeah.
So like
yeah.
we're just nothing to hold back.
No. And like the
Nothing to be
whole-
afraid of.
Nothing to be afraid of. And it's like the whole concept of just really stepping into the unknown, which like one of my like things I always say is that there's magic in the unknown. And
Mhm.
it's back to that premise of like not trying to figure it out. We
Mhm.
don't know like the steps and the way that things are gonna come and whatnot. And being not afraid of that unknown,
Mhm.
you know, but really embracing it.
Yeah, I feel like I may just be so fully in that it's not even a way that like when he
Yeah.
said it, I'm like, oh yeah. I feel that way, but like I don't know, not needing
Not-
to know steps,
Yes.
but knowing that it's like all you can have everything you want and it's here now and there's nothing to do. Like, yeah, that's just
Yeah.
like
Mm.
if that's how you define the unknown, then yes.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. Or at least that's
And
how
not,
I'm defining
like-
the unknown.
Yeah, but also like not in the like give it all away to some higher power because we are
No.
the higher power creating
Exactly.
everything. So
Yes.
there's this funny like
Paradox almost like
yes, exactly. Yeah.
of like letting go, but you're not letting go and giving it over to something outside of you.
Yes.
Yeah, which is like kind of what I mean, at least in my journey, there was a time where that's what I did was like
Yes.
imagining giving
Let
it
go and
over.
let
Yeah.
God.
Yes, exactly.
That sort of vibe, whether it was like Christian or not, like that sort
Yes.
of like
exactly.
in looking for messages and all of this stuff like from like
Yes.
outside of me. It's like yeah, it's really fun to be like, no, none of that. Like none of that anymore. Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah.
I love it.
I love it too.
Well, also like we are on the edge.
Yeah.
Like we are living on the edge, you know,
the
in
leading
terms
edge.
of like we're the leading edge of all of this.
Yeah.
Which is awesome and so
Yes.
fun.
Yes. Yeah. And I feel like I feel like Frank is just like my words or Paul is like my
Yeah.
words sometimes. So
I
I can quote them, but I also do just feel like they're like me in some way.
because they
like-
are.
If you're still here and this isn't offending you, you're on the leading edge too. And you're
Yes.
also in your bonus period.
Yeah. There you go. Exactly.
If all of this conversation today hasn't offended you and you're still here, like, yeah,
And if it has offended you, perfect.
you're probably not here anymore though.
Yeah.
Listening to this part of the conversation. Someone's just like, I'm gonna
Yeah. Click next,
yeah.
delete, unfollow. And that's perfect.
Yeah. Follow or unfollow.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Well, this was really wonderful. And
Yeah.
I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording now. And
Great.
we'll see you all next time.
Thanks for listening. You can visit us at www.itshappeningforyou.com for more information about upcoming episodes and previous episodes and just learn more about us. Here we go. And a 3, and a 2, and a 1, and a welcome to, right?
It's
But
happening.
let's,
Oh, I thought
let's start from the beginning.
It's Happening For You podcast with Robin Meharry.
And Stephanie Lentini, the podcast about mastering the creation process and living a life of extraordinary possibilities.
Join us as we just talk every week and chat and share.
Have way too much fun. We
Way
love
too much
you.
fun. We love you.
Thank you for being here with us.
And the beat drops.
And the beat drops.